Hi everyone. Welcome to Polkastarter, another Polkastarter Twitter Spaces. This time with Cryptoverse, a 3D metaverse that's part of the Chain Guardians ecosystem. Last week we announced Polkastarter first land sale in collaboration with Cryptoverse, and this sale will start on March 8th, 2022, and will be open to everyone. So let's find out about Cryptoverse and its land sale. We have with us Robbie from Cryptoverse. Hi, Robbie.
Hey, Kate, and hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so first of all, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Robbie. I'm the co-founder of Cryptoverse. Cryptoverse is a 3D metaverse project, or arguably 4D, depending on your interpretation of that term, which is also an extension of the full Chain Guardians ecosystem. Chain Guardians started as a play-to-earn RPG, launched in January 2019. Some of you may have seen the token sale, which occurred at Polkastarter at the beginning of last year. Um, since that time, the Chain Guardians ecosystem has massively kind of evolved into also having its own NFT and Launchpad incubator protocol called Chain Boost, the NFT mining platform, which is essentially DeFi for NFTs, which has gone through numerous iterations, as well as a fractionalized NFT staking platform that's akin to PancakeSwap for NFTs. Cryptoverse is the metaverse, which is the next phase of development in terms of the ecosystem. It's run by its own project team. But the co-founders essentially extend across the full stack. So yeah, myself, I come from essentially um, an education and a marketing background to begin with in communications. I've been a degree in English and journalism. I also have a master's degree in script writing, so storytelling I have a strong affinity towards. And fell in love initially with the metaverse space in 2017, being an early adopter and builder within Decentraland. Still serving board member at Decentraland University, consulting on educational related content and being very close with the district leader there as well. And yeah, that would serve as an introduction, hopefully.
Yeah, and what is the vision behind the Cryptoverse?
Yeah, so Cryptoverse, the concept of the Cryptoverse started in 2018, really, and in 2019. With myself being involved in Decentraland, I always envisioned that the entirety of the full stack would turn into a metaverse-like experience for Chain Guardians, which was the ability for users to enjoy a number of different experiences across the full stack, which were metaverse-like experiences that are underpinned by by different kind of gamification concepts and also different layers of social interaction and immersion within the kind of full stack. So the Cryptoverse actually started from a conceptual point of view in that capacity. But in the back of my mind, in my view, the idea was always to essentially pull together and create a team which was capable of delivering a metaverse product, i.e., a virtual world which essentially offers the ability for users to interact with a variety of experiences, both in terms of VR and AR and different merged reality opportunities, whilst also maintaining kind of provable ownership of their assets and playing a big part in terms of the world building and governance of the metaverse. So the Cryptoverse is a product, and we kind of position it as a metaverse of everything, because the idea for the vision for for the Cryptoverse is that actually it offers both B2B and B2C solutions for everyone, i.e., if you're a user, you have the ability to kind of build and shape the world and be involved in the governance of it, and to also see your creations basically realized as a user within the world, and obviously also kind of working with brands and businesses to also establish a foothold in the metaverse, and also have a place that they can obviously build experiences for for their customer and their consumer base, but also enhancing their digital presence as everything continues to kind of evolve this way. So for the Cryptoverse, the aim is to essentially challenge many of the proprietary virtual worlds that you will see, offer solutions to all, both individuals and businesses, and amalgamate the experience so that it's something that, or a place where everybody would obviously like to be a part of and building, towards essentially a utopian style metaverse, which has the kind of, I would say, a taste of the cyberpunk that many people also love. Hopefully that, yeah.
Yeah. And from the unique features on the Cryptoverse, which one would you like to highlight?
Yeah, I think, there's a number of different features which I think set the Cryptoverse apart. I always like to think more altruistically, and this is how I always speak, in the sense that I don't think necessarily there's just going to be, a winning metaverse, which is everything, because it's impossible for a single product metaverse to capture every single user, just because of the different design decisions which are made around the world building. So for the Cryptoverse, it's probably, or its niche kind of target audience would be those that are very kind of bullish on AAA quality graphics, and beautiful aesthetic and visual layer. So a really important part of the Cryptoverse is that actually the world building which has occurred is designed to entice users to enjoy the experience of the world itself from a beautiful beautification layer. In other words, we have an entire kind of zone which is catered towards ocean experiences and subaquatic experiences, which has never kind of really been seen amongst other metaverses, and there's no kind of clear vision or roadmap from other metaverses to achieve those types of experiences. So this for me is like a really important kind of feature, is that visually speaking, it's designed to be really beautiful for people to explore. But I think that the main feature that I would point towards as being probably one of the more significant is the flexibility in the building tools, which we're intent upon essentially delivering. Is that, as a user, if you have no coding experience, you still have the opportunity to build out your land experiences through content which has been created by the foundation's content creative team, and utilize them for terraforming, which is akin to kind of drag and drop, and a lot of centralized gamified platforms you were familiar with, i.e. Roblox, Fortnite, Valheim, if any of you are familiar with that. It's much more akin to kind of terraforming the world in real time, but also having a modding tool which enables those that are developer savvy that want to essentially either build additional engines or to import kind of custom content creation, to also afford that flexibility, so that for brands and businesses who obviously have those needs in particular, they're still able to either utilize the SDK or the modding tool that is there, or work with the foundation team to be kind of building those bespoke experiences. So from a features point of view, having the flexibility to have those two builder tools, I think is really important for adoption and immersion, both for businesses and users. And that kind of also leans into the the kind of gamification and social layers that we'll be creating. So if anybody's familiarized themselves with the Git book, which is essentially the light paper, it talks a lot about different kind of social incentivization kind of tools or systems, for example, called collaborative land clearing, as well as building together and be rewarded in prana, which essentially acts as an incentivization mechanism by rewarding them for the time in shaping the world, by allowing them to get exclusive access to particular wearable NFTs, to particular vehicle NFTs, which will be quite low mint, and so on and so forth.
Good. Sounds exciting. About the NFT collection in the Cryptoverse, what can you tell us?
Yeah, so the NFTs, there are three kind of layers, in terms of the actual, the main importance behind the initial world building. The three kind of NFT focuses that we will be, or foci that we will be addressing, are the avatars, um, the structures or the buildings, and the vehicles. So the avatars, we're kind of having a three-pronged approach towards. First of all, users will be able to either basically access or view the world as an avatar, which is essentially like underpinned by the Chain Guardians NFTs. So they're like blockchain superhero type characters, and that's to underpin the kind of world building and the lore around there. And obviously, those assets already kind of exist. So it's about rewarding early adopters into the kind of the ecosystem full stack. But also, of course, simultaneously, the intention will be to have off-chain avatar kind of stock kind of options with some minimal kind of customization features. So you may have seen something similar in Decentraland. It's like a case of if you're a non-native blockchain user, you can use one of these avatars to initially explore the world without actually necessarily needing to purchase an NFT or even having a Web3 wallet. So it's kind of addressing the kind of mass adoption question as well. Is if you're just a purely full stack blockchain, everything decentralized, you have a lot of challenges in adoption from users and non-crypto natives. So the intention there is to obviously address that question. But also for those that don't want to go out and buy expensive Chain Guardians NFTs, we can't expect everyone to do that, of course. Therefore, it's to have an alternative for initially exploring the world before maybe making any decisions about having some of the cool Chain Guardians NFTs as avatars. So that's the first pronged, or the first, approach that we'll be taking to avatars. But the second kind of development phase of that will be to essentially integrate popular PFP projects that have, essentially a strong social footprint, or have even maybe a strong kind of trading footprint. Basically PFP projects which have achieved a proof of worth that they are building and they are active. So obviously you've got some of the really big ones like Bored Ape Yacht Club, for example. Chain Bunnies is something that's obviously close to our heart. But there are a vast array of PFP projects. So it's just about making sure we're working with those that have really active communities that are interested in being involved in the metaverse. So that's the kind of second phase. The third phase to the avatars is that we will be essentially handing over control to the community to a large extent. And what I mean by that is essentially providing tools which enable users to create their own avatars and monetize them, i.e. if you want to sell X amount of those avatars on the marketplace, users will be empowered to do that. But this is all dependent on fairly strong, I would say, content curation systems. So our in-house team saying, yes, this will work because it is within certain world building parameters. That could be polygon count, or it could be the height of an avatar. No one wants 1,000-foot high avatars, which are taller than buildings. So world building and content curation there is important. But also as important as that is also governance, i.e., the community deciding, is it reasonable for people to be running about in the world with an avatar which might be naked, for example? We don't want to necessarily say yes or no ourselves, but we'd like the community to direct the type of world that they would want to be a part of. So the third layer is all dependent on curation protocols and systems being in place, as well as strong governance protocols as well. So that's the avatar layer. But of course, we also have similar approaches with the vehicles and also with the buildings. Now, the first phase with regards to the buildings is that we're working with world-renowned urban city planners, designers, and architectural firm who are going to be building out our central business district area, as will be to ensure that any new users coming into the world will get really high quality, beautiful content, both internally and externally, within the initial CBD area. But of course, to provide some models that users can essentially populate their own land with in the terraforming capacity that I mentioned previously as well. So that's the first phase for the buildings. And again, it'll be a similar process as with the avatars as we move that towards more decentralized solutions and opportunities for users in terms of both monetization, but also whether or not a building that is created by a developer or a creator is fitting within the world building parameters and is also within the world building framework of whether or not it's aesthetically a good fit for a particular zone or elsewhere. And the same also applies to vehicles. Vehicles will be a little bit more stringently controlled. The reason for that is because when we reach the decentralization layer of the vehicles are, we don't ever want too many vehicles necessarily in the world. Obviously, a lot of the early adopters will likely have these vehicles, but as it becomes more popular and obviously, hopefully, as it moves towards mass adoption, we want to encourage a lot of users to be using the infrastructure layer which has been created, i.e., a sky rail, i.e., the kind of the river and the sea travel and the airports for several reasons. First and foremost, we want to address a situation we've seen within existing metaverses where users just tend to maybe jump in, they'll teleport to an experience or an event that is occurring, and then they will log back off. And there's no real incentive for them to be exploring the world and enjoying the aesthetics. Two reasons, partly because, maybe a lot of the experiences are, say, low polygon, i.e. not necessarily high quality graphics or voxelized. But second, there's not necessarily a load of content for them to experience. So we want users to actually enjoy the experience of traversing the world, even if there's certain areas that aren't necessarily as built up as others. We don't want to have this situation where users are just jumping on and then jumping off after an event. We want to encourage them to go and see the beauty of the world as well. And secondly, we do consider this as a fairly strong, revenue stream layer for long-term, for kind of longevity of content creation and systematic development to have, like a recurring revenue which comes back to the foundation, which can continue to pay its developers and content creators. So long answer there, Kate, but hopefully that maybe addressed that question.
Yeah, long but super clear. Thank you. And what sort of gameplay will evolve in the metaverse, in the cryptoverse?
Yeah, so obviously having coming from the background of blockchain game development fairly early on, Chain Guardians was one of the earlier blockchain gaming projects, way before the kind of NFT and blockchain gaming boom that we've all been lucky enough to be a part of recently. So we have Chain Guardians have kind of I would say have expertise in creating really engaging cross-chain and interoperable solutions for gamification. In other words, giving users opportunity to enjoy their assets across different platforms. And I think the same would be true here, is that because we have a lot of technological solutions on the back end, which essentially enable developers to create their own experiences, we really want to encourage a lot of blockchain game development companies to be building out experiences in the metaverse. And indeed, we are already in discussions with a number of traditional game development companies as well as blockchain gaming projects that are keen to do so. So obviously that's going to be a massive part of the the kind of strategy for building gamification experiences. That said, of course, we have our own full stack development team. We have at this stage we have three Unreal developers, and we have three Unity developers as well. And the intention is to obviously scale that team even further so that we can continue to build our own gamification experiences. One such is that we want to potentially integrate the RPG into the metaverse, for the Chain Guardians RPG into the metaverse. So there's going to be that as a gaming experience, as well as the PvP hub, which is a dedicated area inside the gaming entertainment zone. basically targeting towards gamification experiences, in particular a new engine which would essentially enable users who enter that zone to participate in kind of like battle royale combat experiences with various kind of win-to-earn incentives in there, like competition, and hopefully also making that esports ready. But for those that aren't necessarily interested in kind of, those type of combat scenarios, we also want to build out a spectator layer. So imagine basically users who are keen on watching Twitch and so on can do so inside the metaverse. So we have a multi-layer approach to the gamification experiences, and then of course you have to also bring that back to some of the some of the early world building experiences around the collaborative land clearing. In itself, that might not seem like a game, but it's actually kind of a gamified experience because users have to work together to clear areas in the metaverse which are populated by procedurally generated content. For example, if you're in the hub, there might be a plot of land which is overgrown with trees, shrubs, plant life, whatever it may be. And your job would be to work with others in order to make that land habitable. So in itself, that's a gamification experience as well. So there's a number of different approaches that we're taking towards integrating game layers.
Very cool. How many type of land sizes can one purchase in this land sale, and are they all open for public sale?
Yeah, so there are 6, I believe, in total. There is the Epic estate. There is the Giant, large, medium, small, and single. So did I count right? Epic, Giant, large, medium, small, and single. 6, yeah, correct. And basically, what a user is essentially purchased in there as part of these public sales is an estate. And for those of you that may have seen other metaverses, you can compare that to, say, Decentraland or Sandbox. An estate is essentially a collection of single parcels. And a single parcel is on average made up of 56 by 56 meters. Deliberately, that's made larger because what we've noticed in many of other metaverses is that the amount of space that a user has is quite minimal to build some of the things that they want, and therefore that can obviously pose problems for them in terms of their creativity. So on average, the single parcel is actually larger than any other metaverse to our knowledge. So an estate is made up of those single parcels. And again, these are all ranges. And the reason that they are ranges is because the map is completely unique. No one estate is the same shape or size as another estate. The parcels have a little bit more logic to them because of the tool that we created to ensure that that was possible, to afford users the flexibility to kind of subdivide those estates into single parcels if they want. But on average, for example, an Epic estate is made up of around 490 single parcels. So as you can imagine, that's a huge amount of space there for building, and then potentially even subdivision of kind of different monetization opportunities, whether that be renting to other content creators or selling a proportion of that land and building on another proportion, or indeed if you want to even build on it all. There's a number of different opportunities there. Users do have the ability to purchase all different estate sizes within the public sale. Obviously, by nature of the actual space available in the map, there is only a finite number of every single estate. And obviously, the larger estate, the fewer there are of them. So I believe across the entirety of this public sale, I believe there's only approximately around 15 Epic estates for purchase, for example, because to be clear, the reasonableness of asking the average user to build out an Epic estate or expecting them to do so would be quite small. So for the most part, the Epic estates are probably more appropriate to game developers or content creators with a huge vision in terms of monetization. but it is important that there are still those spaces available for businesses and brands and game developers that would be looking to do so. Right down to the single, which is probably the most, or a single or a small, probably being the more appropriate for the average individual who might be looking to build out like a small shop experience to sell digital goods, or looking to kind of maybe provide different types of gamification experiences. It might be like bungee jumping. It could be that you want them to build a small educational experience for a business that you have. The single estates, which are on average composed of 156 by 56 meter parcel, or the small estates would probably be more appropriate for that.
Okay, and moving to the Genesis map, how did you came up with the concepts for each zone?
Yeah, it was a process of several different kind of phases, really. Obviously, first and foremost, having been involved with Decentraland from the early stages and seeing some of the the world building challenges that they encountered, and obviously then seeing Sandbox and their approach, and then doing some competitive analysis there in terms of what we felt worked and didn't work. Also looking at, for example, what some of the centralized solutions did, i.e., some people would argue that, for example, Fortnite is a metaverse, or Roblox, for example. Also seeing what they did really well as well, to kind of include different layers of, I would say, experience and opportunity there for creators, all factored into some the world building decisions which occurred to produce Genesis Map. But of course, it also stems from our own team's creativity, and our in terms of both our world builders and our content creators, and thinking about what type of experiences didn't exist in either, whether it's decentralized or centralized kind of metaverse solutions, and how we can enhance the user's experience, when inside the metaverse, to want them to spend more time there and to enjoy different types of content that might not exist currently within the metaverse. So this is all of these different factors fed into how we came up with the Genesis planet.
Yeah. I have two more questions, and then we can move on to some live community questions. Can you tell us a little bit about your team, about Cryptoverse's team, and how your experience has led you here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for myself, I first got involved in crypto in around 2016, just before the kind of the last major bull run, before the one that we've probably experienced over the last year or so. I obviously fell in love with the idea of decentralization, with the idea of kind of taking control of one's own wealth, all of the kind of beautiful different opportunities that Web3 and blockchain solutions provide for disruption across, every industry, really, but obviously in particular the financial industry. And but having said that, for myself, I felt as though, whilst that were fascinating, of course, I immediately started picking up Ethereum and Bitcoin and whatever else. It was a little bit boring, if to be honest. Like, for the average person coming into the space, there was nothing really that, yes, it's exciting when you look at it from a macrocosmic point of view in terms of its disruption, but actually on the surface layer, for what's going to keep me wanting to come back every day, other than the potential to make money potentially, or to be part of this kind of wider movement of disruption, I found it a little bit lacking. So I came across Decentraland during its initial proposal phases, and that really fascinated me, because they were talking about virtual real estate ownership, which really, obviously at that time, it was like, wow, okay, yeah, now I see how this technology can be utilized to also disrupt game and also like even property and so on. So for me, I got heavily involved in Decentraland at that stage, participated in their Terraformer event. Well, theoretically missed it by a day, but managed to get some parcels through the community there. Became very close with various district leaders, and at the time that made relationships with some of the founding members through different avenues. And now, obviously, still have within my kind of network, I know several members of the DAO team, and I'm close with one of them in particular. So I was part of, essentially experiencing a lot of the growing pains, a lot of the the successes and the challenges that was faced within Decentraland in those early stages. So for me, I came from, I would argue, the very first decentralized metaverse, and that's what really inspired me to explore the idea of provable ownership and NFTs in a little bit more detail, which was still in the infancy, and that's where Chain Guardians came about. It was a similar kind of similar path for my co-founder Idon. He was playing some of the very earlier blockchain games, which is where I also met him. He had a strong background in tech, having worked for Microsoft, Xbox, and AMD for a number of years as well. So together, we looked at what was kind of missing within the blockchain gaming and the metaverse experience at the time. A lot of it around, we felt like, the immersivity around world building, storytelling, beautiful artwork was somewhat lacking. So that's where, Chain Guardians was founded. And from that moment in time, in my mind, the idea was always to essentially build towards the ability to deliver what I would argue is the vision of the most beautiful metaverse that is going to be there is for users within the world, which caters to as many different types of individuals as possible, and hence the kind of caption a metaverse of everything.
Awesome. To finish this round of questions, we'd love to hear a little bit about your roadmap so far and what is coming next after the land sale.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I always like to, preface this a little bit with what I think it's really important that users understand that what we are building here has never been done before. It's at the pinnacle of innovative technological development and solutions, and this is why we see a lot of traditional brands and huge conglomerates looking to kind of edge into this space. Is that people understand or acknowledge that the metaverse is the next phase of the internet in many ways. It's an additional existence that people want to see for themselves as a virtual kind of presence, and it's going to take some time to get there. So I always like to preface this question around the roadmap is that, well, we have internal targets and we look to share, and we've got a track record of delivering to the vast majority of our roadmap and internal targets across other projects. So, despite the fact that obviously we share these as goals and all across the roadmap, there are always things that, from a tech point of view, that you just can't necessarily anticipate, that might require more attention to detail than initially anticipated, or more development time and resource. So this all always needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. However, one thing that is clear is that there are two different kind of there's three different segments within Cryptoverse team, if you like. You have the content creation team, who produced the beautiful the beautiful visuals, the beautiful models, the beautiful animations. You have the implementation, or the developer team that are responsible for implementing the assets that are created by the content team. And then you have the infrastructure layer, which is obviously both in terms of the web integrations, but also the blockchain integrations. And all of these three things need to essentially work in tandem with one another for releases. But So in terms of the content creation, that's very clear. That will always be ongoing. So what I mean by that is into Q2 throughout the rest of this year, the roadmap will be to build out the central business district area for kind of very early alpha access opportunities, so that when users enter the world, they've got essentially a built-out city, which will be interactable in terms of pop-up experiences. It could be, one of those. One of the goals for that experience is for like NFT marketplaces and fashion shows, as an example. Which, from a content point of view, is the intent to kind of build throughout the rest of this year. So CBD pop-up experiences. Simultaneously, of course, the development work will be ongoing for some of the tools. What I mean by tools is the like land clearing tool, for example, or like, so users will need a UI and a UX for that to interact with clearing land in certain areas of the world with procedurally generated content. We'll also be kind of commencing the development of the prana and the other social layers that we're looking to implement there. So that'll take us throughout Q2 and Q3 for the development. And obviously, simultaneously, we'll be continuing to develop the marketplace, which will be kind of a really bespoke marketplace, which affords users the opportunity to buy, sell, purchase avatars, vehicles, and at some stage, some of the buildings across different chains. So, of course, from a blockchain perspective, there will be a significant amount of integration work, which will be continuing there for the NFT marketplace side, as well as the fact that the blockchain layer will require some further work on the ability for users to essentially subdivide their parcels even further than an initial parcel layer. And I don't want to confuse users too much, but if we compare to, say, Decentraland and let's say Sandbox, they have layer 1, which might be the estates, and then they have layer 2, which is the individual parcels. Well, one of the things on our roadmap from the back end side of thing is to actually have a layer 3 there, which would be the subdivision of parcels. So imagine you have an estate, and within that estate you have, say, 30 individual parcels. Well, we also want to empower users to subdivide those parcels even one step further. And the reason for that is twofold. Firstly, it allows users more opportunity in terms of building out the world and different monetization opportunities. But also, secondly, it's about encouraging users that maybe, let's say, bought a small estate and go, oh, this is a bit bigger than I can build, to actually at least build out parts of that with some of the different tools that have been made available. So that's roughly the roadmap throughout the rest of this year. But if users are interested in having a little bit more of a deep dive on exactly how that's kind of laid out, if you go onto the cryptoverse.vip website, at the top right, there's a link for light paper, and then it'll take you to the Git book, and there's a roadmap tab there too.
Okay, thank you, Robbie, for enlightening us about Cryptoverse and our upcoming land sale. We're going to end our Twitter Spaces with a round of questions from the audience, and we have 5 single parcels for the 5 best asked questions. We will DM the winners after the Twitter Spaces so that they can receive 1 parcel each. So I'm going to first, I'm going to give priority to the ones that raise their hands first. I think I still remember. So here we go.
Hello, yes, you're audible.
Yeah, actually, I have a question about this Cryptoverse land sale. Okay, so a company with a good project is a good company, right? But a company with a good vision, it is a best company. So this is the first project which is having land sale on Polkastarter, right? So what do you think about the future of land sales in Metaverse? And where do you think Cryptoverse will be in the next 3 years in Metaverse space? And what all now impossible things we will be making through? This is my first question. You got it right. I have one more question. But did you understand this question? I just want to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I believe so. Just where you think, where you feel like I believe land sales will be in general, and where Cryptoverse will be in 3 years, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So I think I'm very bullish on on the metaverse on a holistic level, meaning the ideology of the metaverse and it being a space beyond the currently digitally accessible spaces that currently exist. So I do feel as though you know digital real estate and land sales will continue across different projects, of course. I think. And I would say that it's a positive thing because it's bringing lots of opportunities for users to be part of the early adopters in that space. However, obviously, you always need to asterisk this and just say, well, you know, just like with any market which is fairly immature, you need to make sure, obviously, that you are not necessarily, let's say, purchasing high value assets from project teams which haven't demonstrated at least either a very strong vision as to where they fit within the space or have demonstrated experience of being involved in the space at some point in the time, because it's just the same with any other project in which you look to contribute towards. You need to make sure that you have belief in that team. So that would be my first thing, is that yes, I think that the the metaverse and metaverses and land sales in general will continue to be bullish, and correctly so. But this just needs to be precursed with like make sure that you're doing your research on the team and their ability to deliver. In terms of Cryptoverse, within where I'd hope we will be within 3 years, I'd hope that the world is open by that point. Continued content creation and tools being made available for you to produce more interesting experiences, and to start to see some really strong traditional brands adopt Cryptoverse in terms of having presence within there and creating opportunities for their own communities and customers, and to continue to see that occur.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, I liked it. And coming to another question, I have seen on the white paper like NFT sale is on Ethereum chain, correct?
Actually, I think it depends on the launchpad or the marketplace themselves for on their technical kind of solutions available for their users. If I'm not mistaken, and Kate may correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe that actually the raise will be done on Binance Smart Chain for Polkastarter.
Oh, then it is cool then. Yep. And do bear market have any effect on this land sales? What do you think? How your I mean, what are your solutions for this bear market? I mean, launching a land sale in bear market.
It's interesting. It's a question that I've had a conversation with about our, the CMO. It's a question I've had a conversation with the Polkastarter team, and indeed, Daniel himself, obviously is the founder of Polkastarter. Also, we were asking this question one another, and we've actually found that despite the bear market, the attitude for acquiring digital land is exceptionally high. Unbelievably so. The demand is far outweighing the supply currently. What we've seen in terms of registered interest on Cryptoverse website as well as across Polkastarter. So weirdly, conversely, we're actually a little bit worried about not being enough supply for as many people interested as possible. I think that despite the fact that the market overall may be slightly bearish at the moment, I think that the narrative of Metaverse and the longer potential for it to disrupt and become a huge financial powerhouse globally is far outweighing the current short-term bearishness of the market.
Yep. With a great team, we no need to worry about the bear market or the bullish market. Yep. Believe in crypto. Yep. Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you for your questions.
Thank you. Moving on to the next one. Jungle Crypto, you're next.
I want to ask a question on the governance of the Cryptoverse. As it pertains to land development, I think we all see what Disney does, which is so amazing. In terms of Disney's development, like how in Epcot Center, even though it's more education, there's still roller coasters. So we have different zones in the Cryptoverse. We have education, we have high society. How would the governance of land in the Cryptoverse work? Can I, within the education zone, still implement some type of gaming? Are we going to see a blending of the zones, or is the governance going to be very restrictive where you can only build on a particular zone according to the direction the zone has? So I'm very much interested in that, what your thoughts are on that. And I ask one more question. Would you be able to buy parcels in multiple zones?
Thank you very much for those questions. The first one in particular is a really good one. I think that we're developing any metaverse-like protocol or product in this case. It's key that you move towards decentralization and governance slowly, in line with education of the community around, the feasibility of world building based on technological restraints, and also, content curation in general. So the short answer would be that the intention would be to slowly move towards governance as the world becomes more open. But the long answer to that is, because it's quite an intricate question, would be that I would not look to as like one of the, let's say, the visionaries behind the world building, be imposing limits around what users can and can't build in particular zones. I would be encouraging the community to make some of those decisions as far as possible themselves. You asked a really interesting one about education and games there. Well, I was actually a teacher for a period of time. I see the two as completely symbiotic. For me, you can't have education without elements of gamification. So games within education is an increasingly strong line of pedagogy which is occurring within education in general. So I wouldn't separate the two there. If you've got some type of game in the educational area, we would always look to kind of encourage that game would have some sort of educational component within it, but we wouldn't restrict it in so much as saying as if it's a pure game, you can't build it there. At the end of the day, we want to be as open, as decentralized as possible. So if you just decide to have a game within the education center, I think that's fine. But of course, what I would see happening is that actually you would probably start to see nominated champions of the different zone areas within the community, who would probably act as, let's say, a guide or a sounding board for what types of content would be acceptable or not. For example, whilst the question you've asked there is about education and games, which I think are pretty much are kind of symbiotic, that they really exist together. Of course, what you wouldn't want is not safe for work, maybe slightly raunchy content available in the educational zone. So it's a process of guiding the community to build systems themselves, which makes sense for this decision making, but at the same time, just ensuring that there are obviously not any very disruptive contents that are going to be placed that can destroy the vision for those particular zones. Hopefully that answers your question. The second question around can you buy single parcels or small estates or across multiple zones? Yes, absolutely. Of course you can. We would obviously encourage users to probably think about the different types of interests they have and different types of experiences that they feel that they would like to be looking to build across different areas. Generally speaking, just having one location is obviously a little bit restrictive. So yes, if you was to buy 10 singles, for example, or 5 singles, and you wanted one in each in a different zone, you've got the flexibility to do that, because you would obviously make your purchase on Polkastarter in this instance for the 5 singles. When you would then come to our site in order to select the zone of your preference for the land size that you've chosen.
Simply brilliant. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for your question. Any other questions, Kate?
Yeah, I'm inviting the third one. Hi, welcome.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello, hello.
I have a question. My question is, can you tell us? Can you tell us how many earning method will be there in games, and what are the invest do you need to start playing the games? You understand?
Yeah,
my
so with the
question?
game, yeah, totally understand your question. Yeah, the opportunity for earning. So first and foremost, there is the obvious the foundation layers of potential learning opportunities. So, for example, once we enable the tools for community usage around creation of avatars or creation of buildings and so on, you can spend your time creatively in such a way to create those and then mint them as NFTs and sell them on the open marketplace. So that would be a vision. In terms of the games themselves, Chain Guardians, the RPG, and its kind of implementation into the Cryptoverse on a longer term kind of basis has its own play to earn kind of capacities and functionalities. And then you've also got, obviously, a number of other different blockchain games which have play to earn at their heart, which will have their own models and their own visions for how that will be done. And they will be building on top of a cryptoverse. So there will be opportunities across different protocols as well.
Thank you, thank you. Can I ask him another question?
I believe so.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Oh, my second question is, why the team member are so anonymous, and how can I be sure that my fund is totally safe and there is no chance to scam?
Do you mean as part of the sale or just in general?
General.
Yeah, so I guess the same educational kind of recommendations would exist as with every other crypto project, which would be obviously just not sharing your seed phrases with anybody, and where possible, having a hardware wallet, a core wallet, to hold your assets would be the kind of the best recommendations, I believe.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Hey, I'm inviting someone else. Hi, welcome, Mr. Brown.
Hello, Robbie. Hello, everyone. Yes, I have a quick question. Are you going to sell the lands on OpenSea, or you will have your own marketplace?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We've been developing our own marketplace for quite some time now. In fact, we actually had a marketplace probably even before OpenSea launched. We released it and then we pulled it back. And I think the intention is that most of the sales will go through our own marketplace, not because we necessarily want to take any business away from OpenSea or anything like that. The reason for it is just because we were able to control the data that is shown on the front end for the user, meaning a little bit more kind of bespoke, I would say, information around what that parcel is, where it's positioned. So, is it close to a particular district, or is it close to a particular infrastructure layer, or all of these types of things, which obviously OpenSea doesn't necessarily kind of populate very intuitively. It will show some metadata, but most of the kind of data for the NFT is going to be stored off chain. The token ID obviously being a representative of the on-chain kind of information. So I think there's a number of reasons why that is, but most importantly is because we want to ensure that the users have the best experience possible when buying and selling NFTs, whether that be land or others, and the information that's available for users to make kind of informed decisions on those purchases, as well as the fact that OpenSea is still fairly just ETH heavy. I think obviously they may have integrated Polygon MATIC, but we work across with numerous chains, not just MATIC and Polygon, MATIC Polygon, which we do, and ETH. We also have NFTs available on BSC, on Avalanche, and we're also working very closely with Elrond. So the intention will be that actually there'll be a multi-chain opportunity for NFTs that will all seamlessly be populated on the front end of the marketplace, depending on the type of NFT. So we want to ensure that users have the kind of full scope of the opportunities available across the different chains. And unfortunately, there's no marketplace currently out there which will offer that flexibility. So that's the long answer, and the short answer is yes. We want to encourage users to use our own marketplace as much as possible.
Yeah, really cool, really good news. So about the chain guardians, are you going to move your NFTs to this marketplace?
Yeah. So the Chain Guardians NFTs, Chain Bunnies, and will all be available on this marketplace as well. Of course, we're in a decentralized market, so the NFTs will also likely be available for purchase and sale, on other marketplaces as too, where it makes sense. Like obviously for the ETH NFTs, that they're still very seamlessly available on OpenSea. But for example, there are several BSC Chain Guardians NFTs which you can't get there. You'd have to go to say Refinable or to Treasure Island as a BSC marketplaces. So we want to ensure that the user experience is that users can find them all in one central location, as opposed to having to go off to different specialized marketplaces.
Perfect. Thank you for response.
Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I'm inviting someone for the next question. Ranjit.
So it's saying that it's own, earn, create, govern, and much more. So I want to know what's the earning opportunities rather than buying and selling NFTs. And my second question is, so how to create the assets? Actually, what are the opportunities for the asset creators in these games? What tool will we use to create? What technical knowledge should be required for building the assets, and actually also another question is this game will be a web ready playable, or is it will be an installer, a standalone installer should be needed for playing this game? That's my questions.
Yeah, thank you for your questions, Ranjit. I think the first one with regards to the earning, I think we had that or similar question earlier. I guess the answers to that would be, first of all, the layers that we implement, i.e., collaborative land clearing opportunities, for example, will be one of the earlier ones that we'd look to implement. The integration of Chain Guardians RPG, which has its own earning capabilities. As well as other blockchain gaming projects which are adopting the Cryptoverse and then presenting the opportunities. So those are kind of three, but one of the bigger ones which you were kind of alluding to there is also the creative layer. So the intention is that obviously users would be able to create their own avatar NFTs through either custom creation and the modding tool, once the content curation and governance protocols are kind of embedded, or through using the tools which we provide users to create themselves, and then selling them on the marketplace for users to actually be able to use inside the metaverse. In terms of leading into the next question around what technical capabilities you'd need if you were going the more bespoke route using the modding tool, for example. Typically, users who are specialized in content creation will have skills across Maya or Blender, which are some of the popular modeling softwares available. Houdini is a really powerful creative tool as well, which can often be used. Some base knowledge around the Unreal Engine would probably help as well, so that you haven't so you're probably able to seamlessly essentially integrate the creative the asset that's been created across the other softwares fairly easily. But of course, we would look to have kind of developer support there available, and especially in the earlier stages, whilst the documentation were being produced to guide users more intuitively. And obviously, that's across the kind of the C programming language as well, which would also stand you in good stead. Hopefully that has answered your question a bit.
Yeah, okay. One more question is that is it we have to is it a web ready? We can directly play via usual browsers, or we have to install um, anything extra, extra platform, extra exe files for playing these games.
Yeah, it's a great question. It will be an executable. So it will be a desktop executable. The reason being is because obviously it's utilizing Unreal 5, and the compute power required is beyond what browser capability is. I mean, if you look at Decentraland, that's like essentially a Unity wrapper, but for graphical power, or the kind of the AAA graphics quality that we're shooting for here, unfortunately it won't be possible to do as a browser experience, certainly for the foreseeable future anyway.
Yeah, thanks. Great promising project. It's very eye-catching graphics, and what you say, the animation styling also, yes, looks cool. Actually, very promising. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I think we still have time for two more questions. Crypto Noob, you're next. Welcome.
Hi, hello. Sorry. So, I just want to say, obviously, it's been a really fantastic AMA, Robbie. I think you're coming across really, really well, and really explaining things, transfer and multi-chains. My sort of question at the moment would be whether or not there's any securities being written into these NFT contracts in terms of security. So things like maybe some lossless coding, or even sort of upcoming projects like Reveal that kind of certify ownership and verification of entities.
Yeah, sorry, I think we lost you there for a second. So I think we still caught the rest of the question. It's about security in the NFTs. It's a really good question. Obviously, I'm not a smart contract developer, so I can't attest to exactly what they would be doing on that side of things. But what I can say is that on the face of it, if you look at the OpenSea hack which occurred with the NFTs recently, right? The real power of NFTs there is that they are essentially only as powerful as what the project that is built on top of them make them, right? The utility that is baked into them. Otherwise, you just get that kind of question of, well, is it just a JPEG? And I think that the key thing here is that if you have an issue where and it is somewhat a centralized solution, but at the moment, I don't necessarily think that there's particularly any trustless kind of methods which offer complete security here. Are that if for example, somebody hacked, let's say, Bored Ape Yacht Club, and 5 of those NFTs were stolen, it essentially Bored Ape Yacht Club could realign their APIs to blacklist those NFTs, mint 5 new ones, and then reassure those to the rightful owners. Now, I wouldn't necessarily think that that's the ideal solution, and I know that there are other kind of trustless embedded layers which you're referring to, but currently there's nothing that we have settled upon to that extent that we would do at the moment. But it is definitely something that I know that conversations have occurred with our smart contract developers about. And of course, if anything does rear its head, which is an obvious solution, then we'll maybe look to embed that. But for now, all of the kind of utility is baked on for the NFT in the back end. It's kind of what I've alluded to previously in respect of the metadata mainly is held off-chain for the utility of this, and that's why obviously the marketplace that we'd be building is more intuitive for users. The key thing for the ownership layer is the actual token ID itself. So from our perspective, it's a case of, well, if there was an obvious exploit that had occurred, there's nothing to stop us from minting new NFTs and redistributing them to the rightful owners, and then just basically reprogramming our backend to the new token IDs. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, that's cool. So yeah, as I said, it's just as you touched on sort of the security things with OpenSea and general NFT security. It's kind of like you say, because of the use case at the moment, it's probably overkill in terms of security to look at that. But I was just thinking, because Chain Guardians and the ecosystem in general, I think is set to. I mean, I've been following it for quite a while, and I think the ecosystem is just going to be. This could be, I think, be the catalyst that makes Chain Guardians. I mean, obviously, I know it's very well known, but it could sort of catalyst it, into sort of the realms of a much higher market cap position as to where it is now. So I'm quite bullish that it's suddenly going to get a lot of attention, and then security could be a higher issue. So I just thought I'd ask that question to see if it'd been considered. So as I said, one of those solutions as well reveals a relatively new technology. They're not actually publicly listed in terms of a project yet, but I've had conversations with them with regards to technology, and it is quite good because you can write in security, obviously, to the NFT coding itself, which is pretty impressive. But as you say, you've already touched on the fact that you've looked into that, and at the moment it's probably not required at the moment, or could be overkill or not suitable.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think there's always a period of education, isn't there, as well? It's not just for, because this space moves at hyperspeed, right? So not namely just for ourselves as the development team, but also the users themselves as well. Like, for example, if these are NFTs that have like this additional security layer, what sort of restrictions is that going to pose for cross-chain operability, for example, because of the different types of standards that exist, right? So there's a lot of different things to kind of consider there. But I'm sure these solutions, as the space becomes more mature, will become available. And of course, anything that protects our community, we'll look to jump on as much as possible. But yeah, for now, I think that there's nothing immediately apparent anyway that I'm aware of that we can do. But the beautiful thing is that, ultimately, we know that if there is a huge exploit, all of the utility is baked on to these NFTs off chain. Really, the main thing for me that offers that kind of decentralized, or the beauty of NFTs is that as long as it's provable ownership, which is effectively you can get from the token ID in itself. That's good enough, I think, for now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you, Robbie. No, I appreciate your time. Thank you for taking the time to answer that one fully for me.
Now, thank you for your question. It's a really good one. It's really important, and often probably one of the last things in line is the security related questions, but without a doubt, probably the most important, really, as well.
Yeah. I mean, just because I envisage the project is going to become, as I said, it's well known anyway. But as I said, I think this Metaverse project could really be the catalyst to something very, very big indeed. And I'm really, really very bullish on it. So, as I said, security is just something I'm paying particular attention to at the moment.
Yeah, no, thank you, sir. It's a really good question, and it's something that we are obviously always considering and looking into. Fortunately, we've not had a situation since we've been around where we've had security kind of concerns. We have our smart contract developer. He essentially also does kind of contracting for like auditing firms like Certic and Omnitia. So he's kind of one of the pioneers in the space. So often we kind of are lucky or just rely on him quite heavily. He will sometimes we'll have audits on the smart contracts, and nothing will be picked up on. And then he will go, hang on a minute, guys, I found something here which even the auditors didn't pick up on. So we're very lucky that we have him, to be completely honest, to kind of guiding us on the security side. And hopefully, long may it continue that we don't find anything that's, compromising the security of our community members. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Great resource to have. Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you very much for your question. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I think this will be the last question. Smart man.
I want to ask a question.
Hello. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Sir, what is your Cryptoverse relationship with Chain Guardian?
Yeah. So in the Cryptoverse founding team is the same founding team as Chain Guardians. Chain Guardians, the Chain Guardians ecosystem has kind of numerous kind of sister entities and projects. So Cryptoverse is part of that full stack ecosystem, albeit that there is a completely separate team, or 99% anyway, working on Cryptoverse. So it's underpinned by some of the same NFTs. And the CGG token will also be responsible for governance of Cryptoverse, but it is its own entity. It's actually Cryptoverse's foundation structure.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for the question.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to close our Twitter Space session for now. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Robbie will select the 5 best community questions, and you will be contacted directly through DM if you're one of the winners. So thanks, Robbie. Do you want to add anything?
No, I'd just like to thank you so much, Kate, and Polkastarter team for all of your efforts in helping educate everybody around NFTs, Metaverse, and land, and obviously for basically selecting Cryptoverse to be the first, NFT sales that you conduct. It just goes to kind of, show how much faith you guys have in us, and obviously how much we love working with you guys. So thank you very much to everybody here for the questions and for listening. And love to see you obviously become part of the Cryptoverse community. So check out the website cryptoverse.vip, and hope to see a number of you participating in the land sales and becoming part of the early adopters in building out the world with us. So thank you very much.